Well, it's great to have you join us with us this morning. It feels a little bit strange again to be talking to an empty auditorium, but somehow we feel kind of familiar still in this particular space. For those of you who actually don't know me, I forgot to introduce myself before. My name's Andrew, and I'm actually one of the pastors here at Croydon Hills Baptist Church. So it's great to have you join us, whether you're a regular amongst our church community or maybe you're just kind of dialing in for the first time and you were connected through a friend or something like that, or maybe even just through some random Google search. It's great to have you join us today. Now, a couple of years ago, on a delightful October morning, I sat down with a couple of good friends under a pergola to enjoy some morning tea. It was one of those times when you're away from kind of the pressures of everyday life and work demands, and in fact, we were actually quite close to the beach, and that environment tends to lend itself to kind of that relaxation, but also the letting down of your guard. And between bites of food and I suppose the comfort of the time and space and friendship, and also the honesty amongst us, one of my friends asked this question. They said, "Why do you do what you do?" Why do you do what you do? I mean, that's always a good question. The reality is that a lot of the time we never have time or space to actually consider that question. You know, that's kind of a question that requires some thought and some kind of almost introspective reflection. And normally we're kind of too busy for that sort of stuff. I don't have time for that. But in the time and space we were at, they asked, why do you do what you do? Maybe even right now, you're asking yourself that question. Why do you do what you do? At first I thought my friend was asking me this question: why are you a pastor? Why are you a church pastor? I mean, I could talk about the different reasons why I do that, the money, the fame, the adulation. Or maybe I could get a little bit more serious and talk about, you know, as a pastor, I might feel like I have a real sense of making a difference, of doing some good. The truth is that many people, and in fact I hope most people, think that of what we do with our life, that we can do some good and make a difference. There's absolutely no reason why pastors have some sort of exclusive hold on doing good and making a difference. For a period of my life, I contemplated being a school teacher. I like teaching, I like young people, and I know that the best teachers can make an incredible difference in a young person's life. You can make a difference in people's lives in many different positions. You know, the obvious ones are things like teaching or kind of medicine or kind of emergency services. But frankly, you can extend that to all sorts of different areas. You can make a difference if you're a bus driver or a building developer or a builder's labourer. You can make a difference in whatever space you're at. But then I realised that what they were asking wasn't that question. In fact, the question was kind of, in a sense, even more fundamental than that. They weren't asking, why was I a pastor? They were asking, why was I who I was? Why was I a Christian? Why did I believe? Why? Not how or what, but why. Why those beliefs at the core of who you are? That's even a more penetrating question, isn't it? It's the sort of question that takes not minutes, but hours and days and months to reflect on. Why? When you cut away all of the excess of life, maybe the friendships or the high pay, the job satisfaction, when you reduce all of the fluff and the excess and you boil it down to the irreducible kernel of life, why? Why? Well, my response after a few minutes was this. As I said, that I believe that in Jesus we find meaning, hope, and love in life. I believe that in Jesus we find meaning, hope, and love in life. And those three things, I believe, are essentials for life. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter this morning whether you're a guy or a girl, whether you're young or old, whether you're Caucasian or non-Caucasian, whether you're kind of got a primary school education or you've got a doctorate in philosophy. It doesn't matter whether you're the greatest sports person in the world or you're the greatest artist in the world. Whoever you are, whether you think your life is the most significant life in the world or the most insignificant life in the world, I believe that each one of us needs those three things for all of life: meaning, hope, and love. That's why I believe in Jesus. I want to say to you this morning, as we focus kind of on the meaning aspect of that kind of triumvirate, that our search for meaning in all of life is relentless and pervasive. All the time, in all spaces of life, we want to find meaning. I want a purpose in life. I want to make a difference. I want to see that my life has significance, that I have value somewhere. And we find many different ways of expressing that kind of that why question around meaning. Think about it this way. Look, we try to find meaning and purpose in our work. From the earliest days of life, when you've got a kind of like almost like a toddler and they're playing with like a fire truck. What do you want to be when you grow up? Because we think that our work has to have some significance. If you're a high school student, you're probably sick of this question from your parents or from well-meaning older people in general. What do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do? What do you want to do when you finish school? If you're a VCE student, you're probably just, I know the year has only just started, but it's kind of, I'm sick of answering that. I'm not really sure. But the reason it's asked is because we want our lives to have meaning. When we apply for jobs, we often fill out a CV, a curriculum vitae. Literally, it means the course of life, the summary of our life. And when you're filling in those details, I went to this school or this university or this trade or I've done this job or worked here, you're kind of almost like summarising my life and you're saying, does my life have meaning? And when we get into those jobs, we want our jobs to have meaning. And so when you're in a workplace, managers and leaders, one of the things they try to focus on is they want every employee to know that their job is important, that their job contributes to the success of the company. It doesn't matter whether you are a warehouse worker, you're an AP clerk, or you work in IT or sales, you all contribute. They're at pains to say that. Why? Because we want our work to have meaning. Because we want our lives to have meaning. We want them to have purpose. What we do in some ways defines a little bit about us, and we want that to be meaningful. We search for meaning everywhere. We search for meaning at different seasons of our life. Our birthdays. You know, when we're younger, when a birthday comes, we celebrate. And birthdays are often associated with, think of all the possibilities this opens up. So I'm a teenager, I'm meant to have new responsibilities now. I'm 15 years old, I can go and see an M movie without feeling any sense of guilt. I turn 18, well, the possibilities now is the world is my oyster. I can vote, I can drive, I can drink. They're full of this question, what will I do? What will I do? What will my life count for? What will it mean? But our birthdays, when we start to get older, reflect on meaning in a different way. We turn 30. Well, I have to be responsible now. Aches. I can't just flit it away. It must count for something. Or I'm 50. We hit 50 and we ask ourselves, what have I done with my life? Is what I'm doing useful in any way, shape, or form? We hit 100. Well, I can't remember what I did with my life anyway. We think of that question why when we attend a funeral. Death in many ways is the ultimate reckoning for whether our life is important, so to speak. And when we attend a funeral, we often hear someone read out a eulogy, a summary of the person who has passed away, their life. This is their life. What did they do? Who were they? What do we remember of them? What was their legacy? What did they leave behind? What footprints have they left in the journey of other people? Did their life have meaning? And when we do that, of course, we can't help but reflect on our own lives and ask, do they have meaning? This is a question that has been going down through the centuries. In fact, just about every major historical figure of philosophy and learning has always tried to answer that question. So you can find different answers throughout history. If you read through Aristotle, he will say that you can find meaning in life in being the best rational person that you were meant to be. You have to read a little bit more to actually understand what it's about. Or you can listen to Thomas Aquinas, the Catholic saint from the medieval times. He talks about that in your life you need to find the beatific vision to be able to see God. Or head to the time of enlightenment and read Immanuel Kant, and he will say that the meaning of your life is found in doing the highest good, whatever that means. These are ideas that are focused on what ends or destination a person has centered their life on. But the reality is that for you and me, most of us don't spend all of our time in philosophy classes. We don't go to such depth. We try to find meaning, value and purpose often in the race of life, particularly trying to win the race of life. For some of us, that means that we try to find meaning in kind of achievement. It might be academic achievement. Where I stand right now across the road from this facility is Yarra Valley, and on a billboard proudly displayed is a young man sprouting his achievement as the Ducks of last year with a perfect score. It's saying that in his perfect score, his life matters. For some of us, we try to find meaning or value in kind of like sporting achievement. You know, when I was younger, I used to play a lot of sport, in particular athletics. I am, or more particularly was, a reasonable athlete. And so I'd win some medals and trophies. And early on, my dear mother, she would take the medals and take the ribbon off them and then fastidiously sew them onto a black velvet cloth, which had kind of like a thin piece of dowel, and that would hang like a banner with all these medals strewn around it. They were a sign of success, an expression that I was good at something, that my life mattered. The trophies wouldn't go straight to the pool room. The trophies would go straight to my bedroom trophy cabinet. It was a desk hutch, kind of like a bookshelf on top of a desk, and all of the shelves would be filled with these trophies proudly displayed. My life counts, it was saying. We all look for meaning in different places, don't we? Some of us do it with toys, big boy toys, cars and houses. They are trophies that state that I am valuable, that my life has meaning. So often in our lives we use kind of the means of comparison to elevate my life, to say it is meaningful compared to someone else's because I've achieved something. See, I am successful. I am successful in my job, in my career. I'm successful in my relationships. I have a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a spouse, a children. Some of us use relationships as a kind of a marker that my life is meaningful. You think about the nature of social media. Whenever we post on social media, it's never about the number of posts that we make. It's about the number of people who like those posts, isn't it? You know, at the start of COVID a year ago, I recorded a message for our church community and extended about what was going to be happening in the church community. It was a short video, you know, maybe like 90 seconds, and it had something like 800 to 1,000 views. Let me tell you something, I was, yeah, that's pretty important. And then my colleague Muher, he recorded one as well. I'm not sure, we lost track at 5,000 or something about how many likes he had. His life must be more meaningful. That's what we do with social media, isn't it? Because we think that success says that I'm meaningful. Now, last week was Super Bowl Sunday over in the United States, and as a part of the Super Bowl, the TV commercials they spend millions of dollars literally on these TV commercials, and they're kind of almost like a massive production as part of the broadcast. One of the commercials this year, an ad from Toyota, highlighted an American swimmer by the name of Jessica Long and her story. Jessica is a disabled. She actually has had her legs amputated, and she's won 13 Paralympic gold medals. She was born in Russia in 1992, but she was adopted along with her brother by an American family when she was 1. And as I said, shortly thereafter, her legs were amputated below the knees because of this medical condition. The ad is actually quite beautiful. If you Google Toyota ad Super Bowl, you'll be able to see it for yourself. In the ad, you hear a conversation between a mother and an adoption agency worker, and they speak as you watch a recreation of this swimmer, Jessica Long, as a child learning to walk and then swim. Over the voiceover you hear, "Mrs. Long, we've found a baby girl for your adoption, but there are some things you need to know," the adoption worker in the ad says. "She's in Siberia, but she was born with a rare condition. Her legs will need to be amputated." The worker continues, her life, it won't be easy. But her mother then tells the worker, "It might not be easy, but it will be amazing. I can't wait to meet her." Now there is a story of a person making success in life and purpose against all the odds. Surely her life has meaning. It has value because she has won that race of life. But this is what Long shares. "I was living at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs training," she told this particular podcast. "I'd won gold medals, signed a deal with Nike, had a Coca-Cola commercial. I walked red carpets with celebrities. I mean, I had done all of these amazing, worldly amazing things, and see, this is the catch, and it never felt good enough. No matter what, I just never felt enough." Seemingly, her life truly counts. I mean, she has achieved incredible amounts. She would be on a billboard. In fact, she's on TV commercials. And that it never felt enough. It's never going to fulfill you. See, one of our struggles for meaning is that we try to search for it everywhere, but it ends up futile. You know, at home, my childhood home, my trophy cabinet was a reminder of how good I am, my importance, that my life had value. Until one night, one of my younger brothers who used to sleepwalk decided in the middle of the night that he needed to go for another wander. And he wandered from his bed through the middle of our room and smashed into my trophy cabinet. Bang! Obliterated all of my trophies. The vast majority of them smashed. If that's my value, it's gone in an instant, and all my meaning. But the truth is that if this is that it was inevitable that it would seem worthless. The passage of time would render those of little meaning anyway. Eventually, I would come to understand that being the champion of under 11 for Oakwood Park was really not of that much great value, and it shouldn't define my life. And so this is the question that I have for you, is that what happens when we place our purpose and our meaning in some area of life and it fails? Our trophies break. Our bodies die. We retire. Whatever it might be. We spend our life trying to make a mark and then discover it's like footprints in the sand that appear fantastic, and then the tide comes in and washes them away. What do we do? I mean, does this mean that all of our searches for meaning in life are just doomed to failure? If all of the attempts that we make to make sense of this world, if all of the attempts that we make to succeed in the purpose of life are ultimately futile, are simply a dance to death, a race to failure, is that it? Are we condemned to just a life of despair and nihilism? I mean, if secularism is right, that proposes that we are simply a collection of cells randomly placed on this planet, if it is inevitable that they will break down and vanish and they're nothing, if it's just a matter of fact that I am just simply another species of life, an individual, a moment, yes, in this history, but gone, 1 in 8 billion at this particular time, how should my life have any meaning at all? I mean, does anything count at all then? It doesn't matter if you're Einstein or Da Vinci, if you're Mother Teresa or Marie Curie. It's irrelevant that you've lived in life, and if this is true. The encyclopedia of human history will simply vanish. So life inevitably has no meaning. Do we work, live, die, and that's it? If even our best efforts to construct not a sense of meaning from someone else, but a sense of meaning from within myself is ultimately futile, is it just despair? Does all life end up in some sort of midlife crisis and I find myself driving a red sports car or trying to climb Mount Everest and finding a new job or a new relationship? Or maybe even worse, in such darker spirals of life when I realise that there is no hope or no meaning. Is that the case? Is that the case? Is that why maybe we even shy away from asking that question, why? You see, how do we find meaning in life? It is an incredibly important question for each one of us. I want to say to you this morning, on this day, that meaning is ultimately found in Jesus. Meaning is found in God, who can give us direction and engagement in the greater purposes of life. You see, when we search in other places, they inevitably end in failure and futility. If I look for other people to give me meaning, popularity or comparison, it's doomed. Even if I look in myself for meaning, when I say what really counts is not what other people say, but what counts is myself. That sounds great on the surface until it is not. Because the truth is, we are not an island living in this world. We live with others. We want and desire their approval, their validation, their respect. You don't believe me? Look at this meme on the screen right now. You've probably seen this before. Is this not how we present ourselves to the world? If all we needed to find true meaning was within ourselves, the picture on the screen would not be true. It would be irrelevant. But it is. Because we want that affirmation of a parent, friends, and people we respect. And even that's doomed to failure. See, I want to suggest to you today that real meaning, meaning that lasts, and does not end up with you chasing your tail or seeking to find meaning in some futile space, is found in Jesus. You know, you may not know this, but I am a very, very poor handyman. If you want someone to come around to your place and help fix a car engine or replace a leaky tap, I shouldn't be your first port of call. I remember on one occasion when I was a little bit younger, I was trying to fix a leaky water pipe, and I had a monkey wrench from my father-in-law, and no matter how much I tried to use that bad boy, it just wasn't working. Now, my father-in-law is the type of person that you want to call for these type of occasions. He was a farmer for many years and just seems to know how to make things work. And in between his laughter at my incompetence, he showed me how to use that correctly. You see, a monkey wrench is designed a particular way for a specific purpose. And when you know that purpose, it makes sense. If you're like me and didn't understand its purpose and the way to use it, it's useless. And I want to say to you today that the key for life is the same as the monkey wrench. It works brilliantly when you use it for the purpose it was intended, and it fails when it doesn't. I want to say to you today that you can have a meaning of life that is brilliant and perfect and complete when you live life the way it was designed to be lived. Instead of finding meaning from objects or from other people or even from within, I want to say that you can know meaning and purpose from knowing the one who created you. To be in touch with the all-knowing God who gives purpose to this universe and purpose to you. Jesus, the one who loves you, the one who knows you, who created you, can give you that purpose. See, that is the big idea that you need to learn today, that I hope that you can see. Here's a verse from the Bible. It's an incredibly important verse, and it says this. It says that we, it's you and me, are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. Another translation of the original text says this, says, we are God's masterpiece. He has created us so we can do the good things he planned for us long ago. Do you hear what that's saying to you today? You hear what it's saying for me? It says, firstly, it says that we are created. Now, that might seem obvious, but understand what it's really saying is this, is that you are not an accident. You're not. You're not just a random blip on the kind of the 8 billion to 1 chance of life of being put in a space. No, you are intentional. Not just meaningless, not just cells and atoms and some random occurrence in nature. You are created. I am created. And not only that, it says that we are his workmanship, a masterpiece. This is kind of a, get this sense, it's an emphatic about who we belong to. We are his masterpiece, the masterpiece of the creator of the universe. You are perfectly designed for the time and space that you are a part of. And for some of us, we go around thinking that I am an accident. My life has no meaning. It is useless. What's the difference between me and these other billions of people? But God says, no. He says, you are a masterpiece. In fact, you are his masterpiece. You are a masterpiece that is designed for these good works that God has prepared in advance. That your life, that my life is meant to be meaningful, to make a difference. In fact, the language that is put in this particular text here is very specific language. It's language of creation. It's language that says not only were you created, but it says that our lives are meant to be involved with God in the recreation of the world. That's liberation from death and meaningless. That's what that means. You see, the gift of God, this love and life that we experience, is not just to be kind of the end point. It's actually an invitation to participate in the work of God in this world. It's work that God prepared for you, for every day. It's work that God prepared for you to participate in as a follower of Jesus. It's work that involves the work of peace, of reconciliation, of justice. This is the work of God in this world, and you and I are called to participate in that. And I want to say to you that when we ask that question about why, what is life about, why, this is the greater thing that we are called to. This is the sense and meaning and purpose that comes from participating in the greater purpose of life. It doesn't matter, as I said before, whether you're a builder, a banker, or a barista. It doesn't matter. You can be involved in the greater work of God. In fact, that's what is prepared in advance for each one of us. You see, this is the greatest meaning in life. This is the greatest meaning in life. And it comes from knowing Jesus. Now, we live in a world that is just aching for meaning and purpose. We live in a world where more people than ever describe themselves as spiritual. Why do they do that? Because they recognize that there's more to life than just the toys and the everydayness of life. The most common word that you hear bandied around today when it comes to people is the idea of well-being. Well-being is more than just being physically healthy or financially above the poverty line. Well-being reflects this state of wholeness, doesn't it? Of physical, mental, emotional, social health. It must contain this sense of, I know that my life has meaning and value. And in one of the great ironies, you can find many people who are atheists and anti-church people saying that they want to create some type of church just without God. They recognize, well, some of the great elements of churches, community, unity, welcome, belonging, and purpose can be done somewhere else. That's what they propose. But the thing that they're missing is this, is that ultimately the church exists. Why we exist in life is because it gives us that connection with the author of life. The one who loves you, the one who knows you, the one who designed you, the one who created you intentionally for the life that you can live. You see, that's what gives meaning. That's what gives meaning. And so I want to say to you today, when you sit still and you ask that question of why, will you consider Jesus in that? When you're frustrated with the dead ends that other parts of life have given you, well, you see that you need to connect with Jesus. You see, because in Jesus, ultimately, the one who created and designed the universe and did that for you, that's where you genuinely find meaning. You know, maybe if that's where you are today, and you need to search for and find a new place of meaning, you need to speak to someone. Can I ask you, if you're online at the moment, just to sort of either send us a DM or note some details in the chat and say this is for the attention of the pastors, or maybe you don't feel comfortable to put that in the general kind of space on the online. Why don't you go to our website? There's some inquiry sort of pages there. We'd love to hear from you. I'd love to speak to you, because ultimately we find that meaning in Jesus. Let's pray, shall we? For our God, we thank you that you are the creator of purpose. And we find that sense of completion ultimately when we connect to you through Jesus. Father, I pray that you would give each one of us the courage to take time now, and the boldness to step forward into that space if we've been afraid in the past. To free us from all the fears that we have of that, and to step forward with you. In Jesus' name we pray.